Well, I think it's more likely that there'll be a reboot than a Gremlins 3.
Okay.
Because it's been a long time since Gremlins 2.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, there was a long time between Gremlins 1 and Gremlins 2, which was a mistake on their part. So I know there's active development going on because it's a title that they know that they can make money with because there's a lot of fans out there. And the characters and the toys and all those kind of things, they're still made in Japan and exported around the world. So I'm sure something will happen. And nothing has happened despite the constant rumors and constant stories that so-and-so has been hired to script the, and then it just goes away. And then, a couple of months later, another story about the same thing with different names attached. I know it's in development. I have no idea at what point it is or what the story is. But I think the problem has been that the first two movies have a tone that may be difficult to duplicate. And if you don't understand the tone, as the studio didn't, it may be doubly hard to duplicate it. That was certainly the case why they came back to me for Gremlins 2, was because they couldn't find anybody, and they spent a lot of money and a lot of time trying to find people to make Gremlins 2. Mm-hmm. And they couldn't find anybody that was going to capture the tone of the original movie, so they ended up coming back to me.
Okay. So if they were to come to you to try to reboot the movie, would you be interested in something like that?
Sure. Why not? I mean, it's. I think it's a story that could be told different ways. Yeah. I think that the problem that they're running into, though, is that particularly the Gizmo character is so recognizable that there's not a great deal of leeway you've got to be able to reimagine that character, because that's sort of what the whole thing rests on. And that was, of course, Steven Spielberg's last-minute idea, that Gizmo not turn into the bad gremlin as he did in the original script, but to stay around for the whole movie and be the sidekick of the kid.
Okay.
And I think that was the single idea that made the picture last this long. Look, you can duplicate the movie in many other areas, but in that one, which is the hard area, that was the one that people just loved this character. It's like a puppy. I mean, it's like a Lassie movie, I mean, you can't make a movie without Lassie if it's a Lassie movie. Well, I was and am and will be. The script is written. It's a good script. As with many projects that people do, and you have to have more than one. You have to juggle them because you never know in this market who's going to come through and who's not going to come through. Burying the X, I thought, was a movie that would never happen, and all of a sudden the money came through. It was like, we're going to make the movie in a month,
Yeah.
But in this case, we did have Simon for a while, but then his schedule got screwed up, and so we didn't have him. And the funding, naturally, well, you don't have it. Well, you don't have any money either then now. And so the producers are still looking for
funding.
The funding. And I think they have some funding, but I don't think they have enough. Okay. And it's not a remake of Curse of the Demon, which is one of my favorite movies. It's really it goes back to the original story and reimagines a lot of it, and obviously in a modern way, and with different locations, and except for Carswell and his daughter, probably different characters. Well, I think a lot of it is dependent on casting, but unfortunately, a lot of the casting is depending on the funding, because how many actors want to say they're going to do a movie that's not going to happen?
Okay.
And they have schedules and careers, and they would like to work. Mm-hmm. So you can get somebody who says, "Well, come back to me when you have funding," but then you can't come back to them until you have the funding, and then when you come back, they may be busy.
Would that be something that you might consider trying to fund anything again, like a Kickstarter?
No, I don't know. I think that you got to be careful with the fund anything with Kickstarter model. Some people have used it well. Some people haven't. There are different strictures depending on which service you use. You can keep the money if you don't reach your goal, and there's other ones where you don't reach your goal, you don't get any money at all. And as I said, it is a time-consuming project. I mean, you've really got to have a staff of people who do nothing but cover that area. Plus, you've got to give people something for their money. Yeah. Now when we did our Trailers from Hell Kickstarter, we had a lot of stuff lying around that we could give people as premiums. Okay. But for Casting the Ruins, I mean, I don't have any of that stuff left. Yeah. And I think when people donate to a movie, they want their name on the movie. They want to go to the premiere. They want to visit the set. They want to, but even that isn't really, I don't know, enough, because how many people can you have visit the set? You know, and where is the set? You have to fly them. I mean, now all of a sudden the money they gave you is being spent on travel. So I'm not sure that that's necessarily the way to do it. I think the movie being in 3D killed it, frankly. Because when I read the script, I suggested to the producers that they do it in 3D. And this was before the big 3D surge with Clash of the Titans and Alice in Wonderland and all that, which were not shot in 3D. Our movies were shot in 3D, and so we figured out how many theaters would be equipped to play it at that time, and it seemed like a good deal. But by the time we were finished with it, the phenomenon of fake 3D had now taken over, and all of these movies that were shot with big money and big stars, but not in 3D, were playing all 3D theaters, and there was no room for us because we were just this little movie. And by the time all that shook out, it played overseas and did quite well, but it actually never got an American theatrical or Canadian theatrical distribution in 3D. And so that kind of defeats the purpose of making a movie in 3D.
Yeah. So now with the formats where people can watch it at home?
Well, people can. If you have a 3D TV, you can get it in 3D. I don't think you can get it in America. I think you have to get it from overseas. But the idea, obviously, in the producers saying, let's do it in 3D, is that you feel that when you're done, you have 3D content. And that will always be good to have, because there'll always be somebody asking for 3D content, because there's so many things in their library that aren't in 3D. And I personally believe that 3D is much better when it's actually shot than it is when it's converted later. Although I've seen some very good conversions lately, but I still think that artistically, it's better to plan the shots, to be able to see them in 3D while you're working, because you change things.
Yeah.
And if you just take a shot that you did in 2D and you convert it in 3D, it might look okay, it might not, depending on how much thought you gave to the fact that it's ultimately going to have 3 dimensions. So, I mean, I would certainly do 3D again, but I think that there's been a plethora of poorly presented 3D for various reasons, and a lot of times it's not even the process, it's the place that it's being run. There's, the movie theaters are now run by very few people who push buttons, and not very few of them are specialists in anything.
Yeah.
It's not like the old grizzled projectionist who knows exactly how much foot Lamberts it needs to light the screen. Now it's all automated, and I've seen some atrocious 3D presentations that really make me understand why I hear people at the box office say, which theater isn't it playing in 3D, and that's the one I want to go to. For some of these movies. And also it's cheaper, because, a lot of the audience for 3D is under 25, and they don't have that much pocket change. And if they're going to spend a lot of money to see a movie, it's already a lot of money to see a movie and to go out and, park and do all that stuff. And then if you have to pay a premium just to see it in 3D, most of them are saying, no, forget it. I'm not quite sure when it's coming out, because it's an independent movie, and it's not sold to distributor yet, so it could be the fall, it could be a little later.
Okay.
In order to do these things, you really have to plan them. And this was sort of an ad hoc attempt with not really enough planning on the part of the producers to do what they thought would be a fun way of involving people in the movie and raising some capital and all that. And it actually was a little ill-advised, and I don't know that we actually benefited anything from it. It just sort of went away.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of a footnote in the history of the movie.
Okay.
I think it's great, Francis Coppola long ago predicted that people would be able to make films on their 8mm cameras, whatever, and not imagining how good the quality could be. But what was not imagined was the fact that you didn't just shoot the movie, but you could actually finish the movie on your computer. Without having to go to a post house, without having to go to, which is, of course, is one of the reasons the industry went into such upheaval. It's because when you make a movie, the editor now does all the post-production. They used to hire people, used to go and mix special mixes, temp mixes for previews, and hire guys to, sound guys to do effects and do all that kind of stuff. Well, these people, they don't get hired anymore, because that doesn't happen. It all gets done in the computer.
Yes.
And so anybody who's got access to a camera and a computer and an editing system can make a movie with their friends or whatever, and they can probably get fairly decent quality depending on how talented they are with the camera, and then you can finish it. You get your friends to do the music. You get your friends to be in it. The only problem is once you're done with it, what do you do with it?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I found that I like the most about this festival is that they're very into shorts.
Yeah.
And most people don't have a lot of the wherewithal to make a feature, but you could certainly make a short. And then where are you going to go to get people to see it? Well, this is one of the places that you go to get people to see it, because there are people here who can see your short, check out your name, and maybe find something else for you to do. I mean, for the new Godzilla is directed by Gareth Edwards, whose last picture was Monsters, which was made essentially as a home movie.
Yeah, it was.
By him.
The budget was really, it was like eight to 10,000.
No, it was really cheap, and it was Desperado level,
Yeah.
And he obviously made a very good movie on no money, and they said, look, let's have this guy do, and now he's made this gigantic blockbuster.
Yeah.
Which is probably going to make a lot of money, and his career is launched, and so I mean I think that should be an inspiring lesson for people who want to make films, because it's not every day that something like that happens, but it can happen. The only tips is that you've got, Howard Hawks said nobody can become a good director without directing. Okay. And the trick is to just do it. Yeah. And even if you make 3 shorts and only one of them is any good, during the other 2 you learned things that you will not do, wrong things that you will not do in your next film.
Okay, yeah.
There's always other mistakes waiting to be made, believe me. I mean, you can get to my level and I've made movies for years, and you're still, you know all the mistakes that you've already made, but there are plenty more left to be made, because there's just, it's a finite kind of a thing. So I would say, do it, find a good story, because it's all about the story, or a good situation that you can exploit, and then get the most out of it.
Awesome.
This is great. The only time I've spent in Colorado previously has been at Telluride, where the air is appreciably thinner.
Yeah.
But this is great. But what's terrific about this festival is because they're using the lore of the hotel and the Stanley, and there's a whole channel that does nothing but run that documentary about what The Shining is really about. And it's fun. There's not a lot of oversight in terms of people saying, go over here and do this, go over here and do that. I mean, it's all very relaxed, and everybody's having a good time, and it's terrific.
God's children, God is a cannibal, he'll never stop eating.